Hello everyone, I'm Amir and you're watching the Studies of your channel. This is my daily life in Krasnodar, a city in the south of Russia. In this video you'll see the magical blooming of Wisteria, peaceful alleys of Park Krasnodar, bright flowers, beautiful trees and many cozy moments of this warm season. We'll walk through blooming paths, discover beautiful locations, enjoy the atmosphere of nature and simply slow down for a while together. But first breakfast, so let's go! Today for breakfast I have two sandwiches with omelette. One is made with oyster mushrooms and fresh green onions, and the other with cherry tomatoes and green onions. A simple breakfast, but somehow it feels especially cozy on a morning like this. Let's try it! The taste is amazing! Warm, fresh and comforting. The kind of breakfast that makes a slow morning feel even better. Now let's go for a walk. Now we are walking near our home. Look at this apricot tree. Tiny green apricots have already appeared on its branches. I hope you can see them. Isn't it a little magical? Not long ago, this tree covered in soft blossoms, and now it is slowly turning those flowers into fruit. Maybe some of you remember it from one of my past videos, when it was still blooming. Spring changed everything so quietly. Tell me in the comments if you remember that moment. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. Look at the leaves of this oak tree. They are such a bright, fresh green, soft, almost fragile in spring light. It's interesting how different they feel right now. Because usually oak leaves are much darker, stronger and more rigid in color and texture. But in spring, everything seems to start over. Even the oak looks gentle for a moment. Look at this wisteria in full bloom. Isn't it amazing? The way the flowers head down like soft purple waterfalls is almost doesn't feel real, like nature is showing off for a moment. Can you see the small red cherries on this cherry tree? I think some of you might remember how this tree was blooming not so long ago. Now it has quietly changed its look, from flowers into fruit. Tell me in the comment if you remember that moment. Sometimes I think we wait for beautiful places too much. We imagine that beauty is somewhere far away, in special cities, famous parks or places we plan to visit one day. But the truth is, it's already around us. Even here in a very ordinary residential area, on the same streets we walk every day, there is so much happening if you just slow down for a moment. A tree changes every single day. One day it's covered in blossoms, then in fresh green leaves, and later in small fruits that weren't there before. The light on the buildings is never exactly the same. The sky shifts its colors in ways we often don't notice. Even the wind feels different from morning to evening. And I think the most interesting part is this: nothing around us is actually static. Everything is alive, changing, moving, even in the most quiet and ordinary places. We just don't always pay attention. But when you do, even a simple walk near your home starts to feel different. You begin to notice small details. A branch bending slightly in the wind, a shadow changing shape on the ground, or a tree that you've seen 100 times but suddenly looks new. Maybe beauty was never about the place itself. Maybe it was always about how closely we look. And once you start noticing it, even the most ordinary street can feel like something worth remembering. We suddenly came across this little bird. Can you see it? This is a great spotted woodpecker. Such a beautiful bird to meet unexpectedly during a walk. With its striking black, white and red colors, it almost looks like a tiny piece of living art hidden among the trees. Every day trees change a little, so slowly that most people never notice it. One day the leaves are tiny and soft, almost glowing in the sunlight. A few days later the branches become fuller, darker, heavier with life. And what feels surprising to me is that this transformation never stops. Even when we walk the same road every day, the trees around us are never exactly the same as yesterday. Maybe that's why nature never feels truly boring. It is always quietly becoming something new. Look at these white blooming bushes. Isn't it amazing? They also look like soft clouds growing along the path, covering everything in bright white flowers and making this place feel so peaceful. Sometimes I think people stop noticing beauty not because it disappears, but because life becomes too fast. We walk through the same streets every day, thinking about work, problems, plans, notifications, responsibilities, and after some time, our eyes stop truly looking around. Everything becomes normal. The trees become background, the sky becomes background, even sunsets become something ordinary. But the strange thing is, beauty never exactly leaves. The world is still full of small beautiful moments happening constantly. Light passing through fresh leaves, flowers moving in the wind, birds song early in the morning. The way evening sunlight turns ordinary buildings golden for a few minutes. These things are still here. We just become too distracted to notice them. And maybe this is why slow walks feel so different. Because when you walk slowly, your attention returns. You begin seeing details again. A tree you ignored for years suddenly looks beautiful. You notice how its color changes every week. You recognize familiar bird songs. You start remembering which flowers bloom first and which appear later. And little by little the world feels alive again. I think many people believe beauty only exists in special places. Famous parks, mountains, forests, expensive trips. But honestly, some of the most peaceful moments can happen near your own home, on streets you've walked hundreds of times before. Sometimes all it takes is slowing down enough to truly see where you already are. Because beauty is rarely hidden from us. Most of the time, we are simply not paying attention. Look at this beautiful wisteria in full bloom. Isn't it a miracle? The way these flowers hang like soft purple cascades almost floating in the air makes it feel unreal for a moment, like nature is showing something truly magical right in front of us. Seasons don't just change the world around us, they also quietly change how we feel inside. In some seasons we feel lighter, more open, more alive. In others we slow down, think more, become more reflective. And I think it happens so naturally that we don't even notice it right away. One day you just realize that your mood, your thoughts, even your memories feel different than they did a few weeks ago. Maybe that's why nature feels so connected to us, because we are changing with it all the time. It's getting hot, so I took off my jacket and jumper. The air feels warmer now, and it's that moment when the season slowly starts to shift from comfortable coolness into real warmth, when even a simple walk feels different on the skin. I think people should spend more time outside, not as a task or something productive, but simply as a way of being in the world. Because something changes when you step out of your usual space. Inside everything feels structured, walls, screens, routines, notifications. But outside everything is alive and unpredictable. Light changes every minute. Wind moves through trees different each time. Even the sound of the city is never exactly the same. And I think we often underestimate how much we miss while staying indoors. A tree grows a little without us noticing. Flowers bloom and fade in places we pass every day. Birds appear, disappear, return again with the seasons. None of it waits for us. But when you spend more time outside, something interesting happens. You start reconnecting with small things again. You notice how the air feels in the morning compared to the evening. You recognize the rhythm of the weather. You begin to understand that nature is not just a background. It's constantly speaking in quiet details. Even a simple walk becomes something different. Not a movement from one place to another, but a collection of small moments. Light on leaves, shadows on the ground, the sound of footsteps, the presence of trees that have been standing there for years. And maybe this is what we lose most when we stay inside too much. Not just fresh air or movement, but attention. Because outside your attention naturally softens. It expands, it starts noticing things again. And in a world where everything is trying to pull our attention away, that feels almost like a quiet kind of freedom. Now we are in Park Krasnodar, standing in front of this art object called emotions. It reflects different emotions: happy, sad, playful, sleepy. Which one do you like the most? For me, I think I like the sleepy one the most. It feels calm, soft and peaceful, like everything slows down for a moment. Tell me in the comments which emotion you like the most. Look at this rhododendron in full bloom. Isn't it beautiful? The flowers are so rich and full of color, almost glowing among their green leaves. Like a small burst of life standing quietly in the middle of the park. Flowers have this quiet way of making people slow down. Even if you're walking fast, thinking about something else, or just passing by without attention. Somehow, when you notice flowers, your pace changes for a moment. You stop, you look, maybe even without realizing it. And I think it happens because flowers don't demand anything from us. They are not loud, not urgent, not trying to go anywhere. They simply exist, open, calm, and present in the moment. And in a world where everything feels fast and constant, this stillness feels the most unusual. Maybe that's why people take photos of flowers or come back to the same places when they bloom again. Because for a short moment they remind us how it feels to simply be here. Without rushing, without thinking ahead, just noticing what is already beautiful right in front of us. Childhood memories are so often connected to nature, and I think many of us don't even realize it at first. When people remember childhood, they rarely remember ordinary days inside rooms. Instead, they remember sunlight through trees, the smell of grass after rain, warm evenings, blooming gardens, birds singing early in the morning. Even small details stay with us for years. The sound of leaves moving in the wind near home, a favorite tree in the yard, the feeling of riding a bicycle under green branches in summer. Nature quietly becomes part of memory. Maybe it happens because nature makes moments feel alive. Seasons create atmosphere around our lives. And later that atmosphere becomes deeply attached to emotions. Sometimes a certain smell of flowers can suddenly bring back years of memories. Or warm evening light can remind you of a time you haven't thought about in years. And what feels especially interesting to me is this many childhood memories feel larger and more magical than they probably really were. A simple yard once felt enormous. An ordinary tree felt ancient and mysterious. A small walk felt like an adventure. Maybe children notice the world differently. They pay attention to details adults stop seeing. And perhaps this is why places filled with trees, flowers, wind, and changing seasons feel so emotional to us later in life. Because somewhere deep inside, they remind us of the way we once experienced the world, slowly, curiously, and with wonder. I think that's one of the reasons people feel calm in places like this park. Not only because it is beautiful, but because somewhere inside it reconnects us with those quiet feelings we remember from long ago. Look at this beautiful tree. It's a paulownia. Its soft purple blossoms look almost unreal against the sky, like something painted rather than growing naturally. Trees like this make even an ordinary walk feel special. Can you see the bird sitting on that branch? It's a wood pigeon. Look, can you see how many paulownia flowers align on the lawn? It almost looks like a soft purple carpet beneath the trees, as if the blossoms are slowly covering the ground with color after falling from the branches. This art object you see ahead is mirror maze. We suddenly came across turtles right in the middle of the labyrinth. People always say that turtles move slowly, but honestly I don't think that's true anymore. Look at them, they're almost running. It's funny how animals sometimes completely break the stereotypes we have about them. I think moments like this are one of the reasons walks become memorable. You go somewhere expecting trees, flowers, or beautiful views, and then suddenly notice something completely unexpected, like these turtles, and somehow these small random encounters often stay in memory the longest, not because they're dramatic or extraordinary, but because they feel real, alive, and impossible to fully plan. Maybe that's the beauty of slow walks. They leave space for surprise. I really think every tree has its own character. At first it may sound strange because we usually think of trees simply as a part of the landscape, something that stands quietly in the background. But the more time you spend around them, the more different they begin to feel from one another. Some trees look strong and heavy with thick dark branches that feel ancient and stable. Others seem light and delicate, moving softly with every wind. Even the way trees grow feels individual. One stretches wide across the sky, another grows tall and narrow, another bends in unusual ways, as if shaped by years of weather and time. And during different seasons, their personalities seem to change again. In spring, many trees feel gentle and full of new energy. Fresh leaves look soft and almost fragile. Flowers appear for only a short time, making the tree feel bright and alive. Later, in summer, the same tree becomes fuller, deeper in color, and more confident somehow. And in autumn, some trees suddenly become dramatic, glowing orange, red, or golden, before quietly letting everything go. What fascinates me most is that trees are constantly changing. but so slowly that we rarely notice it happening in real time. And maybe that's why people become emotionally attached to certain trees. A tree near home can quietly become part of your life for years. You watch it through different seasons, different weather, different moments of your own life. Without realizing it, it becomes familiar, almost like a silent companion, always standing in the same place. I think this one reason parks feel comforting to people. Not only because of nature itself, but because trees create presence. Each one adds its own mood, its own shape, its own atmosphere to the world around it. And once you start noticing that, you'll never really see trees the same way again. In the next shot, the sound of water will be completely real. This art object that you see behind the tree, the embrace of humanity, is directly inspired by the philosophical parable Footprints in the Sand. The parable Footprints in the Sand. A man dreamed that he was walking along the seashore and beside him was God. Footprints remained on the sand, one pair from his feet and one pair from God's feet. As scenes from his life passed before him, he noticed that during the most difficult and painful moments, times of despair, fear, and defeat, there was only one pair of footprints on the sand. The man reproachfully asked God, "Lord, you said that if I choose to follow you, you would never leave me. But why during the hardest times of my life did you abandon me? I saw only one pair of footprints." The Lord answered, "My dear beloved son, I love you and I will never leave you. When you saw only one pair of footprints, it was I who carried you in my arms." Look at this beautiful white wisteria. It's Wisteria floribunda, also known as profusely flowering wisteria. Now we're leaving Park Krasnodar and heading home. This is the last spot we'll visit here. This part of the park is called the Park of Clouds. And look at how beautiful the clouds are today. Soft, bright and slowly moving across the sky. As if the whole place is living up to its name. On the way home we came across this paulownia. Look at how large the flowers are. Their soft purple color and unusual shape make them almost look tropical. Do you like this tree? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to know what you think. And along the way we came across this beautiful wisteria. Blooming trees feel almost magical because they change the world so suddenly. One week the branches look quite ordinary, and then almost overnight everything becomes covered in color. It's such a short transformation which maybe makes it feel even more special. For a brief moment, familiar streets and parks look completely different. Places we pass every day suddenly feel softer, brighter, more alive. And I think blooming trees affect people emotionally because they remind us that nature is always renewing itself. After cold seasons, empty branches and gray days, life quietly returns again. Maybe that's why people stop to photograph blossoms, or simply stand beneath them for a moment without saying anything, because somewhere deep inside it feels hopeful to watch the world bloom again. Look at these beautiful irises. Isn't it wonderful? Their delicate petals and deep colors make them look almost like living paintings growing beside the path. And this unusual bush in bloom is the French tamarisk. Its fine, faded flowers give it a very soft and airy look, almost like pink mist gathered among the branches. Look at how beautifully the pink hawthorn is blooming. The soft clusters of flowers cover the branches so gently, adding a warm, delicate pink glow to the whole scene. Look at how the maple is blooming. This tree exists in many countries, but not many people really notice it in this stage. I think it's worth paying attention to. Even something so common can feel beautiful when you actually stop and look at it. Alright, now we're back home. Now let's eat fresh cucumbers. First, we need to cut it in half. Then we need to make diagonal cuts with a knife and again in the opposite diagonal direction. This is so the salt can be absorbed better and it will taste more delicious. Today for dinner I have baked potatoes with broccoli and feta cheese. Alongside it, there are fresh cucumbers and pickled tomatoes. Everything is really delicious. And so our walk comes to an end. Today we saw blooming wisteria, quiet corners of the park, beautiful trees, flowers, birds, clouds, and all those small details that often go unnoticed in everyday life. I hope this video helped you slow down for a little while, relax, and maybe notice the beauty that already exists around you. Because sometimes even the most ordinary places can feel magical when we truly pay attention. If you enjoyed spending this time with me, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I always love reading them. See you in the next video. Bye!